This is Red Moon Role-Playing.
Z. Well, you've been waiting for Dr. Pages to get his whole act together, and you've been waiting for word from Silas as to what he might have found. I'm going to assume Z has been up to something on her own self, so would you have been reaching out to Donette or Lee, as in on the phone, online, something like that? Would you have been pulling on any of your contacts, your connections?
As of right now, I'm waiting on Dr. Pages to meet with me to go out and speak to the second victim that we're hoping is still alive. I think the one thing that I would be doing is sitting in my small, shitty apartment that I adore completely. I'm lying on my bed with my feet, my ankles crossed, propped up against a wall, playing on my phone. And I think the best connection that I could do right now, as I'm tying threads together, pulling on threads, is to check in with the online conspiracy groups and verify that Sophie Pace hasn't broken there, because they're pretty aggressive and they're pretty hungry on certain topics. If there's a leak, it's going to populate there first. And just to verify that that leak hasn't populated, I would love to see what people are saying in regards to this new Netflix special. Because the things on Google and Reddit, there's some value there, but if you really want to mine for the good stuff, you go where things get dark.
That is true. Well, as you have online conspiracy groups as one of your contacts on your sheet, it is easy enough for you to find the kinds of places that would report on a kind of case like this. The fact of the matter is, while Sophie Pace is dead, you know that for a certainty in more ways than one, her death has not been reported or indeed recorded. She came to the morgue as a Jane Doe, and due to the fact that paperwork has not been completed, she is still a Jane Doe. The only people who know, and you don't know of all of these, but the only people who know that Sophie Pace is missing are the three of you and now Dr. Sandra Kiesling, her therapist. Though it would appear that whether Dr. Kiesling has told anyone or not, she certainly hasn't been on any Reddit or Chan groups to report it. So, that's one thing. However, the Netflix documentary has caused quite a lot of stir, because the whole Victor Latendresse case has always been something of a cause celeb among conspiracy groups, the kind of people that follow true crime specials, serial killers, those kind of Ted Bundy addicts types. And so there's all manner of people talking about Latendresse, talking about how the evidence never quite added up. Whatever happened to him, there were reports of him being here, there, and yonder. Nothing that is providing you with anything concrete, that's for sure. However, there is one thing that is of particular interest. There was an AMA hosted by the producer of the Netflix special, by the name of Trudy Kidd. Trudy did an AMA on Reddit where she was being asked all kind of questions about Latendresse. And while a lot of them were very grisly and puerile, these questions that were pointed at her, and she fended them off in a pretty courteous and intelligent way. One question, as you're scrolling through, does stand out, and it was regarding who was the most interesting person you had a chance to interview about Victor Latendresse. And it isn't any of the survivors. It's not Sophie, it's not Donette, it's not Lee. It is someone by the name of Samuel Latendresse, who claimed to have been raised in the same adopted household as Victor. He described himself as his brother, apparently provided ID to that effect, and was apparently a revelation. He has never been interviewed before, had never been interviewed by the police, because all evidence pointed to Latendresse. There was no need to get character witnesses, and he wasn't brought up in court. So apparently this interview with Samuel Latendresse was really quite insightful into the character of Victor L.
Interesting. Okay, so while I'm here and this new name populates, this Samuel Latendresse, can I do a quick search on... Because he wasn't included in the Netflix special, right?
That's correct. He wasn't interviewed on camera. He was interviewed for, I guess, what you'd call colour.
Ooh. So as I close my eyes and I cycle back through that hour special, was he even mentioned? Did she just drop this is the most interesting person, but she deliberately didn't include any of his testimony into the series, or she did?
There were points in the documentary where the voiceover artist refers to trying to get in touch with Latendresse's family to learn about his childhood, and we have sketchy reports that he grew up in a troubled home that was not his own, and that he spent time as a child, often by himself, and when he was forced into groups with others, he was dysfunctional. Pretty typical stuff, all told. There was nothing to those colour pieces that made you think, wow, that blows the case wide open. So why Trudy Kidd thought that speaking to Samuel Latendresse was some kind of revelation did not come across in the documentary itself.
And that in itself is very interesting, very fascinating. My mandibles just on the backside of my jaws begin to audibly chitter. At that point, they also catch like a piece of fried chicken. I didn't realize that was that far back there, so I'll pull one of those out on like the long, spiny, tendril mandible, and then I'll re-eat it, and then I'm going to go back to playing on my phone because this community, they really are stellar. They're one of the more darker, one of the more ignored, one of the more dismissed communities, and it makes them all the more powerful because if you're patient, if you wait, and you know what you're looking for, you get leads like Samuel Latendresse.
It's true. So when finally Monty Pages turns up for you to take your road trip, let's see about your decision. Are the two of you going to see Donette and therefore take a ride out of town, or are you going to try and get in touch with Lee, the police commissioner?
Sounds to me like the easier individual is probably the best one to start with, no?
No, yes, I would absolutely agree. Getting an audience with the police commissioner, given all of the spotlight that's likely on her for participating in that program, I'm actually really surprised that the department allowed her to do it. I do agree. We should start with our rural countryside girl, I'm flipping notes to get to the name, our Miss Brigham.
Also, Madam Z, not to waste too much time on this, I'm afraid I have a small imposition to ask of you. Are you familiar with Madam Tsukioka's gym? The wrestling, the boxing place?
I'm just going to do a quick side-eye over to Matthew to see if I am.
Yeah. You have had contact with the Gold Gym that Hirono Tsukioka, runs might be the operative word. She runs it as a business. She's not a fighter. She's not a coach. You don't tend to provide commentary on sporting events, however. It isn't exactly your specialty. There's a whole different column and different magazines and subscription periodicals that deal with that kind of thing that are not city culture.
Understood. Do I know that that's run by one of the accursed?
I think it's fair to say that yes, you know that Hirono Tsukioka is one of the accursed, just not someone who tends to be in the same circle as you.
Okay. I imagine that Monty is just in her apartment, that she's still on her bed with the legs spread up and her head drops and is looking at him, and then her expression drops because she can anticipate some type of bullshit coming down the pipeline.
Yes. I don't suppose you'll be able to find time in your extremely busy schedule for an exciting boxing match coverage article highlighting the wonders of the physiques of the individuals in the gym and the trainer.
Monty, I'm not a sports reporter.
I can owe you a favor for a favor. I'm sorry. I had to pay for the information.
So you used me as currency?
No. I say that slightly hurt. No, she used it as currency. I can't say no. Not really. I had to buy for the information that, yes, the murders are very suspicious, possibly occult-based. So occult-based, in fact, I scratch my nose, that it's possible this first victim, was actually on their way to becoming one of the accursed. It's quite possible, if that's the case, that the other victims might not only just be murdered individuals, but people who become afflicted with a curse as well. I'm sure you'll understand would make things even more complicated. Things might start getting political. Some dead going around making new dead.
My eyes slowly start to widen. Now, I only have 2 on my face at this point, but you know that you've seen me in my true form, that if it were populating, all of her eyes would be widening at this point. I nod. I shrug. I roll off of the bed. I snatch my keys up off of the counter. That was worth it. Let's go. It's a long ride to the country.
Thank you, and I'm sorry. And you'd know that I actually really dislike asking direct favors of you or Silas. It's not my style.
At least the intel was worth it.
Well, yes, worth it, and also highly troubling. Considering what I had to do.
What you had to do?
Yes. Remember, I I ended an individual's existence. Possibly an accursed individual's existence. Now, possibly.
Well, you're not actually lamenting over that, are you?
I don't exactly enjoy it when I have to eat like that, you know.
Monty, I'm gonna slip my arm in between his, roll my eyes in my head. Come on, let's go.
I let myself be led away, placated it seems for now.
The drive out of the city is simple enough. The traffic is low this time of the afternoon. You don't get caught in the rush hour, although making your way back is going to be a bit of a pig if you have to come back anytime soon. It seems Donette Brigham, according to what you can find out, lives on a farm. It's only a couple of hours outside the city proper, but it's far enough that the city is just a blur on the horizon by the time you get there. And it's dark enough that it's just a blur of, well, smear of lights is probably the best way to put it. A gentle rain is drizzling down as you drive up the long, winding drive toward her farmhouse. This farm has seen better days, that's for damn sure. It's strange the things you notice. First of all, isn't the state of the crops. It seems indeed that this isn't an agrarian farm. They've got animals out to pasture here. Some cattle, some sheep. It's the fences. The fences look like they've just not been maintained. Like someone just doesn't give much of a damn about their security. And there's something, well, odd about that. It speaks to a psychosis almost that one would imagine Donette Brigham, survivor of what could have been a brutal attack. You don't really know the details. They're always left rather hazy. That she would let her security fall so lax. You arrive outside her house. There are lights on as the darkness is setting in. There's a couple of cars outside. Oh, I say cars. There's a car, there's a pickup. You can hear dogs barking inside.
I slowly exit the vehicle, putting away my sketchbook. As we drove, I couldn't help but think about those fine fighters at the gym. I can see the appeal Hirono sees in them. People so full of life and vitality. I couldn't help but just do a little bit of idle sketching. But I quickly put that away. And I will wait for Z and say, do you wish to begin the process, I suppose? I'm not that good at talking to people.
I exit the vehicle. I make sure that the door is unlocked. I am going to spend a moment just sniffing to take in this rural, feral area. I'm listening to the agitation of the dogs barking, whether that's just an alarm at our arrival or whether that's an alarm at something else. And I am going to look at Monty and go, I'll take lead if she's alive, but what is our play here? And do you have the ability to determine if someone is potentially cursed and has not yet manifested? Is that something you can sniff out, taste out, identify?
I wrinkle my nose a little as I remark. I can see some things that are hidden from sight, but I kind of would need to eat a little first. I'm not quite juiced up enough, as to put it bluntly.
That's a gap that we can bridge. Matthew, as I'm just taking in the electric temperature of this area, what am I getting fed back to me, at least from like a beast perspective? The barking of the dogs, the state of the animals, the taste of the air. Am I getting anything from just a pure atmospheric recon?
Unsettlingly sedate. The animals are well fed. The dogs are barking excitedly, you think, because you just pulled up. At first, yes, there was the worry that this was going to be an entirely predatory environment, but no, quite the opposite. And if anything, that's even worse. It feels a little like approaching the witch's house in Hansel and Gretel.
I take a moment to adjust my coat. It's now darker, so I don't quite need the hat to be so low as I say, how about this, Z? We're here to make sure the individual is safe. We've heard some worrying rumours. You are a journalist, after all. We're concerned that they might be in danger. Have they seen anything unusual? Have they experienced anything unusual? Dreamt anything unusual? Maybe it's all for nothing, but if there's a danger, we want to help. Can you spin that somehow?
I can spin that somehow. Are we keeping Sophie completely in the dark? Or do you want to potentially tease out that she missed her therapy appointment and we're trying to track her down, or gauge on how the conversation goes before we introduce?
On one hand, it may cause undue duress, but we are possibly on a time limit, possibly. I think we better lay it thick, yes. Imply that one of her friends, or associates, or fellow survivors, I suppose, may have had a terrible fate, and we want to prevent that.
The front door opens before you can walk up to it. There's a man, he's in his middle age, early 50s, stood there. He has dungarees on over a plaid shirt, a cap fixed pretty firmly on his head. He's staring at you with a grumpy expression. Are you going to stand out here all day riding up my dogs, or what?
No, we're not going to stand out here all day. We're waiting for our invitation in. And I smile, because I think I'm clever.
Well, listen, we ain't in the business of religion, hucksters, people selling door to door, whatever. Why are you here?
No, we wouldn't have made that drive all the way out here to waste your time on something so frivolous. We need to talk to Miss Brigham. And it potentially involves a disappearance of Sophie Pace.
He blinks at that. Sophie Pace. Well, Donette's sleeping, but you can come in if you need to. Come on.
Thank you.
Thank you. It would be greatly appreciated. We promise not to take up too much of your time.
Why, are you with the Netflix people?
Actually, I then look at Z pointedly.
We are.
Yo, he says, leading you through the porch into the kitchen. We ain't got the cable such out here. We're not gonna watch the show ourselves. We thought you did a fair job. I saw on the TV guide that it's already on, so why do you... Listen, it ain't my business. I live here with Donette. She ain't mine, I ain't hers. He leans back. You don't really know what the relationship is between Donette and this man. From what you could tell, she lived out here by herself and was unmarried. No family much to speak of. He ambles off. Done it! Done it! Done it! What is it? There's some people from the Netflix here to see you. Oh, we'll send them up then. All right as rain. He pokes his head back in. She's upstairs. She'll see you. Give her a couple of minutes, make herself presentable, okay?
Of course. Thank you. What was your name again?
Harry.
And Perry, does this charm come with a last name?
He does laugh at that for a disconcertingly long time. Oh, that's good. That's good. Sweeney.
Mr. Perry Sweeney. Thank you. This is an important question, Matthew. Does it smell like dinner is on?
As in, something's cooking in the kitchen?
Yes. Just does it smell like dinner is getting prepared or is on for the household tonight?
No. The kitchen is cold. Given that that's early evening, it's a very good question to ask. Because, yes, there's something amiss.
I can't help but to audibly sniff that. As I look around, I'm going to throw Monty a look, but I'm not going to articulate.
I catch the look, and yes, I'll begin taking a close look at my surroundings as well. Not using any occult means, just my normal eyes.
Yeah, this house, it's almost a little too twee and perfect. As you poke your own head into the living room, they've got one of those sofas that's wrapped tightly in plastic. Hell, there's a plastic tablecloth over the dining table, and it doesn't really look like anyone has sat there for some time. The parts that aren't in plastic, the heavy drapes, are pretty layered in dust. One could assume Donette Brigham doesn't get downstairs very often. Based on her age when she was reportedly attacked by Victor, she should likewise be in her 50s by now, much like this Sweeney guy. And you watch the documentary. It was just Donette from the shoulders up, of course, and she looked like she was in her 50s, maybe weathered a little more, but that's to be expected if she was living an outdoorsy lifestyle, working a farm. Nothing amiss. Not so much, but yeah, the house itself is almost like a museum in its preservation.
A quick question, and I think I know the answer, but that small little snack I had earlier with Hirono, that wasn't enough for a curse dice, was it?
Good question. I'll give you a curse die. So you make your way up the stairs?
I do, and I brew on this a little. After all, I did say I was still quite hungry, but I have to admit that the stuff I had at Hirono's did have a bit of a kick to it. I wonder, maybe I can, with free curse dice being held, activate my Tenebrous Sight. This is a spell that, when activated, is a simple action that reveals all hidden and concealed things in the area. It doesn't negate any spells that would cause something to be invisible or hide things from others, although it can provoke a clash against magical concealment. You automatically know where mundanely hidden things are, such as small keys or important items.
Well, your eyes flash obsidian black. You look left and right, up and down. You examine your surroundings. Oh yes, there's plenty hidden here. This ain't good, Monty. You can see in those cupboards, you can see in that panel that looks like it should just be running along the hallway, that you could move it out the way, and you can pretty much see behind it almost as if you had Superman's X-ray vision. You're picking up things by scent as well as by sight. You're picking up a smell that is largely subdued to the mortal nose, but to you feels ripe and vivid. It is heavily salted meat. And the tools that are hanging there, perfectly kept, everything incredibly well kept. This house, for all of its polished veneer, feels like a butcher's block. It feels like you have just walked into a washed-down abattoir. Feels like you could probably commit a murder in a place like this and just wipe the blood and the gore off the surfaces, and it would return back to normal.
Absolutely fascinating. Very bad, as you said, but a little part of me deep down finds it all quite fascinating. The precision of the operation. I understand what it means to get rid of bodies and deal with bodies. Do I think that this butchery operation is simply something to do with some poor animals, maybe some illegal food supplementary business, or do I think this man is maybe the sort of man who likes to get rid of people for someone or something? Maybe his own amusement.
Oh, there's no point playing coy about it, Monty. That's a human leg under those stairs.
Interesting. I blink at Z with my blackened eyes and simply say, "Be ready, Z, for potential violence. I do believe Sweeney has very interesting extracurricular activities that relate to, well, I'm sure he's very interested in this documentary for other reasons than entertainment purposes."
I lose myself for just a brief moment in just a pool of black eyes. I love every single time he does that. That also tells me that he's seeing things that I cannot see, that I cannot sense. And if he's giving me that degree of warning, I am going to fully prepare myself to walk into any potential ambush or any discomfort that may come with interviewing our dear Miss Brigham and dealing with our dear Mr. Perry Sweeney. Okay.
You walk your way up the creaking staircase. Mr. Sweeney waits at the bottom, watching you all go up. Just call if you need me for anything. Got that?
Oh, we certainly will. Thank you so much. You're being so very helpful. Thank you.
There's no problem.
I say that down the stairs, smiling with my black eyes.
He trudges off. Yeah, he doesn't respond to the black eyes. Maybe he just doesn't see them. Maybe they just don't register. But you are left on the landing. There is only one door here that is closed, and from what you can see, that must be the one that Donette is in.
Are you ready?
I nod. I briefly just check my coat pocket, checking that I did indeed bring one of my scalpels. Yes, I did, yes.
I am going to sink my shoulder into the frame of the door and just give that door a very quick sniff, and then do the double knock with two of my knuckles to ask permission to come in.
Oh yeah, come in.
I'm going to swing open the door.
And what you see is disturbing. There's Donette Brigham, and she looks as she did on the documentary. From the shoulders up, anyway. Donette Brigham is propped up in her bed. She has no arms and she has no legs.
Holy shit.
She is a torso, with a head balanced on top. It appears that the room itself is, much like the rest of the house, clean, sterile. It isn't like she's been made to live in squalor. Maybe Mr. Sweeney is her carer in various ways. She gives you a smile. Can I ask from you, Bridgett, an esoterica and cunning roll, please?
That is 3 successes and a single 10 on the curse die.
Excellent. So this is a wicked success. So you can see through any kind of veneer straight away. I mean, your effect right now, your spell is still in action, Monty. So you're seeing stuff too, but I'll get to that in a moment. Z, You see her, and as you even just glance, and in a way it feels impolite to look for more than a second. It feels like you're staring and being a voyeur, and that isn't your intent. So you look and you look away, but looking just briefly is enough to tell you she is like you. She is one of the accursed. This is what your wicked success does. It identifies her immediately as something like you. And I'll go one further. You got so many hits there that you can identify the who, the how, the what, the when. Donette is not just accursed. She is one of the hungry. And she isn't just one of the hungry. She is an Iscariot. She is what would be referred to rather vulgarly as a flesh eater. You very rarely see flesh eaters Iscariots again. That's a better name for them. Although that's a pretty rich way to describe the name Iscariot. She is, as I've mentioned, sat up, propped up, smiling. She has a warm face. She examines you. And Monty, as you are looking around the room, the tools of, well, probably not her trade, but certainly Mr. Sweeney's trade are likewise hidden in this place. Some inside cushions. Underneath the bed there is a plate of half-eaten remains. How is it that I can help you both? From the Netflix, are you?
Oh, Donette. And I'm slowly just circling around this bed that almost shame-based, I can't make eye contact or I shouldn't stare, is now unapologetically gone. I am completely dialed in because I am fascinated. Intel that Monty just brought in has been validated, and this is absolutely delicious. She's delicious. I'm circling around the bed and I'm going to say, oh, Donette, it has been a long time since I've seen one of you.
One of me, honey?
You hungry? For the conversation we're going to have, I'm going to want to make sure you're well fed.
Oh, she looks at you, Monty. Now, I wasn't sure about you, she says, nodding at Z, but you, she nods more deeply at Monty. You's like me, ain't you?
It would seem so, madam. Before we continue the conversation, purely out of respect, we're not going to cause you any problems. Is your man downstairs about to run up the stairs with some sort of instrument in his hand and try and clock us? I'd rather he didn't.
Oh, heavens, no. Not unless you give him cause to do so. He's a sweet little pussycat, unless I get hungry.
Understood. Well, in that case, reviewing the situation, accept our apologies for coming here under false pretenses. We're not from Netflix. I'm sure you figured that out.
I did gather, but, Mr... She looks at you, Monty.
Pages, madam, Pages. A pleasure to meet one of my own. Our own.
Well, the pleasure is mine to have such rare guests in my bedchamber. But I have to say that you do need a little bit of meat on your bones. You are looking positively skeletal.
Oh, I'm afraid I don't get to eat quite as much as someone of your type does. How
Family, not type. Don't want it to sound like it's some kind of condition. You know, I had to explain to the Netflix people because they was very concerned when they came up here for their interview. What happened to my arms and legs? Flesh-eating bacteria was the best we could come up with.
It's not a bad explanation.
It's not at all.
If you'll forgive me for asking before we proceed, how long have you been like this as opposed to what you were before?
Oh, honey, she looks at Z now as if to say, men.
Oh, I love her so much. I smirk.
You need to be able to cut to the bone of the point, Mr. Pages. If you're trying to ask me when was I whole, when did I have my arms and my legs, well, they all went away successively over time since I guess I lost my foot 21 years back, and then a little more.
I see. It didn't happen to coincide with the unfortunate experiences you experienced at a certain hands of a certain Victor.
Victor Latendresse. Well, I guess I'm now something of a celebrity because of him. Well, yes, he awoke something in me, it's fair to say. And my hunger was so obscenely overwhelming. There were times when I could not do anything but eat. Now, I had a sense of control, of course. I don't like to hurt others. Who does? And so, a little toe here, fingertip there, and then later a calf or a forearm. And before you know it, both my arms and legs are gone.
Oh, I really do understand, madam. I do. And I just look over to Z as the situation seems to have changed quite dramatically, but maybe now it is once again time for her to step in.
Oh, Z is experiencing Christmas morning right now. I have circled the bed. I am now sitting on the edge of the bed, like slightly leaning over where her shins should be. And I'm just looking up at this absolutely magnificent creature. Tell us what you haven't told the others regarding your experience with Victor Latendresse. We're tying together some threads on behalf of several of our families, madam. And we're working on a potential theory that he may be targeting individuals like us. Now, for what purpose, we're still not sure. Tell me what you haven't told the others.
As I say, it's so rare that I get visitors from out of town, especially from outside the family. I tell you what, let's have ourselves a lovely little chat, but you should have a plate of something to eat first. Silas, yes, you have left the alley, of course, and your new friend, Jenga Dance, troubled, to say the least. You know something that the rest of your crew do not. There is something to do with a liminality involved in this. This is not just a serial killer, a psychopath going around murdering people. Now, you don't know anything about the accursed connection, the fact that victims may have been accursed or about to become accursed, but you have a different piece of the puzzle. Your head is filled with whirling thoughts, and you can't help, I am imposing to say, thinking about your sister for a moment. Angel. She was, you remember, 1970s. What was it, 1971? Supposed to be meeting up with some Victor, some Fury from north of the border, introduced from around the city, and then, poof, she goes missing. No Victor, the Furies claim, no, there never was a Victor, and Angel had left the city. You're wondering now, is all of this just coming back around? Is there the chance that if this Victor is about again, that you might be able to find out what happened to her? So much whizzing through your mind right now. Silas, what are you up to as you stagger out of this alleyway?
You're correct. Silas is thinking about Angel again. It seems like thoughts about her kind of creep up when he's by himself and lost in his own thoughts, because really at the end of the day, that's all Silas ultimately is. He's just a bundle of anger and thoughts that occasionally riding shotgun in somebody else's body, since his own is so far gone. But he is starting to wonder if there's a pattern or a type, because he's convinced that it's the same Victor. The Furies maybe didn't know about Victor, or more disturbingly, they did and didn't want to let Silas know. He'll put a pin in that, come back to that. But why now? What's changed? What's caused things to shift into this direction? And that's the part that he's still rubbing up against.
Yeah. There you are, walking along the sidewalk. You are trying to give up the habit, but right now you probably want nothing more than to have a cigarette between your lips.
If only I hadn't given them all away.
Shame you gave that whole packet away, yeah. Deep in thought as you are, contemplating where to go and who to speak to, where your crewmates might be. Can I assume, Eddy, that when you deposited your previous body, you took the phone off of it? You didn't just leave everything on the carcass?
He probably would have even taken his old ID, just out of habit, if nothing else.
Okay, then. Is there a call you want to make?
Yeah, he probably will call his crewmates so they know he's found something.
Well, you get through to their voicemail rather frustratingly. Do you convey everything that you have just learned, or think you've learned?
What he says is, of course, picking up the phone. I have information. I know kind of what's going on. Specifically, there's some... The strange spaces are involved. There's something missing. The gun is missing. Don't want to talk too much on the phone. If you could give me a call back, that would be great. Why am I being nice? I don't understand. Bye. Click.
The rain starts sheeting down. Okay, Eddy, you tell me. Tell me directly. Where are you headed?
Well, if his crewmates, he knows that they were going to go investigate somebody, not going into the country. Who knows? Weird people of the country, the cannibals and whatnot. No one would do that. So I've heard, right? Allegedly. So instead, until they call back, he's actually going to find a bar or coffee shop near the police station that's closest to where he thinks Lee Fry probably is, and just kind of stake out.
Okay, you find a cop bar. There are, of course, plenty of them, and while it's unlikely the district commissioner is going to be in attendance, you might be able to find something out.
Exactly, just kind of listen in, see if it notice any trends or anything going on.
Yeah, so you head to the Let Go, and that's what it's called, this cop bar. And, well, there was a time in the past where you would have fit right in a place like this, surrounded by gumshoes and detectives and the like, but right now, well, Kenneth's body feels a little too, if it's not too bad to say, a bit too white. You're a bit uptight, a bit preppy, and so you walk in very much out of your element. This isn't a saloon, the music doesn't stop and people don't just suddenly turn around on their stools and look at you, but there is an atmosphere here that tells you this is not a friendly place to outsiders. Nevertheless, the heavily tattooed woman behind the bar does give you a nod.
I'll give a nod back and sit down.
You new here?
Yeah, new to this bar, but not new to town.
Oh. She leans in. This is a cop bar.
Okay. Good to know.
She leans back, shrugs. Okay then, what are you having? I mean, we've got pretty much all kinds of everything on tap.
Yeah, just beer would be fine.
Beer. Just no preference. That's fine. I'll go for whatever's fun.
Yeah, I don't get into all the weird IPA, bitters, hops, whatever. Just beer.
Looks like a shift has just come to an end because all of a sudden, as she is pulling your pint, a good 20 police officers pile in. This isn't some big jam where they block up the doorway. They just file in after another. Partners getting off shift, clocking in here after clocking off from work, and gathering around the bar, gathering around you. A rather heavy-set gentleman with whiskers looks you over. What are you, new in blue or something? No, he's not with you. He's new to town. Well, he's not new to town, he's new to the bar. Is that right, Sheila? Yeah, he's alright. Don't often we get cute boys in here. Oh, I hear that. Sheila likes you. You're cute.
Thanks. And Silas starts to let the role take over a little bit. It's like clearly he's found a place in this, so he's going to try to turn off his usual rough and tumble. Well, he thinks of it as charm, but others may disagree. And so he carefully nurses the drink that he really just wants to slam down. And starts to... He chats amiably, but nothing in particular. And mostly just kind of wants to listen in and see what he can kind of overhear.
Would you like to spend a curse die to have fate intervene here? How many curse dice do you have?
I have 2.
Well, that's a risk then. Would you like to spend a curse die to have fate intervene at this point and for you to overhear something pertinent? Otherwise, we will leave it to the chance of a dice roll.
I will chance the dice roll.
All right. You will always hear something. I'm never going to keep you completely in the dark. But it's, what you hear. Well, we're going to go for either empathy or enigmas. It's your choice. And we will go with, I think, composure if you're just listening in. You're not manipulating the conversation.
Okay, so that is 4 hits. 1 of them on the curse dice.
4 hits, 1 on the curse die. That is pretty much as good as you're going to get, especially if you decide to add a momentum at this point to buy yourself an enhancement to that.
Yes.
Because now we're looking at 5 hits. I think fortune is for once in your favour, Silas. The curse dice land well. The enhancement helps too. With that number of hits, that usually means Kismet is at play, serendipity, fate, call it what you like, because the door opens just as you're listening in to a gang of squad car cops talking about, hey, did you hear the commish cancelled overtime again? The door opens and in walks the police commissioner. She is with her entourage, so this is majors and captains. Oh, a turn. Huh. Oh, do fuck off, she says to all of them. They laugh. Commissioner on deck, I said fuck off. I'm here for a drink. We're all here for a drink, aren't we? Yes. Big case closed, everybody. All of you deserve a round of applause, but let's hold it until we're a few pints deep, okay? There are some toasts. People cheer the commissioner. She approaches the bar herself, stands next to you. Does not bat an eye. A round of whatever everyone is drinking, Sheila. You know it's on me, and you know I'm good for it. You got it, Commissioner. And Lee Fry, the police commissioner, she doesn't take a seat. She just stands at the bar for a while, clearly lost in her own thoughts, staring into the mirror on the other side, looking at the photos that have been plastered up there around that mirror over the years of cops who have fallen or who have retired. She loosens her necktie and she allows Sheila to deliver the drinks, but she takes one of her own, sips a whiskey, puts it down again. Then she turns to you. Would you forgive me for sounding a little hackneyed? But why is a dead like you in a bar like this?
I just smile back.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the scenario Suffer My Sins for Curseborne, which is published by Onyx Path Publishing. Curseborne is on Kickstarter right now, and you can find a link in the show notes. Story guide was Matthew Dawkins, and we were also joined by Bridgett Jeffries and Eddy Webb. The music was created by Atrium Carceri and was used with permission from their label, Cryochamber. Please check out cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for more of their lovely dark ambient. We would love to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Graham Barey, Doug Thomson, Lily, Mike Parker, and Maciej for their generous support. And we would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want to support our work, please check us out on Patreon. You can get access to our Call of Cthulhu bonus campaign, Shadows of Yog-Sothoth, with Matthew as our keeper, as well as bonus campaigns for Cult of Divinity Lost and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. On top of that, we also offer early and raw access to all of our recordings, and you can also hear your name read on the show as a champion of the Red Moon. Finally, you could also play some Cult with us. Most importantly, that support is what keeps the show going, so do check us out there. Thank you again for listening, and remember that the world is cursed.